Greetings and salutations all of you weird and wonderful people out there, and welcome back to Pokémon Meets, the series where I see what a bit of duct tape, a splodge of glue, and a sprinkle of human imagination can do when we Cronenberg the Pokémon universe with a different franchise, to answer the age-old question of, what would that universe look like if Pokémon were in it? And for today's episode, we are still in the magical world of Harry Potter. Last time we were here, we had a look at what would happen if Pokémon resembled the crest for the Hogwarts houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. This was quite a challenge to do, so I thought, like any sane person would, I'd take on another challenge and see what would happen if Pokémon were a Wizards Patronus. In probably one of the hardest challenges yet, I had to go through every single wizard and witch to see who could perform the very tough charm known as Expecto Patronum. Now, because of how long and extensive this list is, I mean, there was a lot of them, I shall be splitting this video into two parts. As in all honesty, if I did this all in one go, we would be here for at least an hour. Yeah, you can thank me later. Now, what is Expecto Patronum? For those of you unfamiliar with the series, the Patronus charm is a very advanced defensive spell that wizards and witches of a certain level can achieve in order to defend themselves from the nightmarish, soul-sucking, ice-cold, worse-than-my-ex-wife creatures known as the Dementors, the Guardians of Azkaban Prison. The Patronus charm, if cast correctly, shields the witch or wizard in an aura of their most happiest memories, one of which that the Dementors cannot penetrate or take away from you. If the memory is strong enough, it also has the power to inflict massive damage towards the Dementors, in some cases enough to scare them away. This is where the Pokémon come into it. You see, there are two versions of the Patronus, corporal or non-corporal. A non-corporal Patronus is almost clear, white misty wisps that don't actually have a form yet, but can still be used for the same purpose. So for those witches and wizards that can cast a non-corporal Patronus, just imagine them as being the owners of a Ditto. So of course that now leaves corporal. A corporal Patronus is one of the hardest things to conjure, but is the most effective Patronus. On top of that, in some cases, depending on the wizard or witch's ability, the Patronus also takes the form of their spirit animal. However, this animal is subject to change with the wizard. So now that we have an understanding of Expecto Patronum, let's get straight into the rules of this list. And so, like last time, I'm avoiding all legendary Pokémon. However, for this list, only one person is lucky enough to have been awarded with a legendary Pokémon, and this will be explained later on. Secondly, students, or wizards and witches of a certain age, will only be allowed to have a Pokémon in its first or second form. As, like a Pokémon trainer, they are still in training, so if they had a very powerful third evolution Pokémon, then that would just make things far too easy. However, in this instance, if a Pokémon also has just solely 2 evolution stages, then I'm also going to be allowing that student to own that Pokémon. Thirdly, teachers or adult wizards and witches are allowed to own any Pokémon in any evolution, with of course exception to legendaries. Fourth and finally is if any witches or wizards have had 2 forms of a Patronus, then I shall be covering both forms and give them the Pokémon that I feel best represents them both.
So now that we have all of the rules and regulations out of the way,
allow me to officially say I'm your host Lucario. See what I did there? And let's grab our Pokedexes, evaporate to the nearest comfy chair, Merlin's beard, and let's take a look at a Wizard's Patronus as Pokémon. So let's start this list off with lesser known wizards who can perform the Patronus charm. Now when I say lesser known, I mean characters whose Patronus never really got the coverage in the movies, but who were detailed to having a Patronus within the books. Take for example Ernie Macmillan. For those of you unfamiliar with Ernie, I don't know why you wouldn't be. He is believed to be a part of the Sacred 28, a group of families that are still believed to be of pure blood descent. Along with the Weasleys, the Malfoys, the Blacks, the Longbottoms and the Slughorns, he's also a part of Dumbledore's army, the secret organisation of students loyal to Albus Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix. So with a character so rich in lore within the books, it seems rather unfair that the actor who played him only appeared in a handful of scenes. So you'd probably be even more surprised to learn that he actually owns a Patronus, and his Patronus is that of a boar. The boar represents strength, independence, power, avoidance of unnecessary conflict and defence. Therefore, for our first wizard on this list, Ernie Macmillan would easily be the owner of a pig knight. As come on, I mean, this thing is a goddamn wrestling sensation. I mean, it looks fantastic. But either way, I hope that this has given some justice to a character who has never been given the chance to shine like he should have done in the films. Another character who didn't have a lot of screen time but had a lot more lines than Ernie was that of Cho Chang. The Raticate of the Secret Army, in my opinion. I mean, I can't believe she rat-ated Harry and his friends into the popo. Oh, fine, okay, yes, I should know better. Snitch! Oh, something got stuck in my throat there. But in all seriousness though, Cho Chang hasn't actually had the best representation in the films. And it wasn't actually her that told old Dolores Umbridge about Harry's secret classes. In fact, that honour falls to Marietta Edgecombe. And she didn't even need to be bewitched. The Bewitched did it of her own free will. So it's needless to say that Cho has drawn the short straw in this. And it's crazy to think that Cho's Patronus is that of a swan. Now the Swan Patronus is someone who is full of love to give, will protect the people they are close to, and will usually form a bond with one person in their lifetime. So to me, there's only one Pokemon that comes to mind. And that's because there's only one Swan in the Pokemon roster, haha, what a twist! But let's be fair, Swanna is a fine-fitting Pokemon, and when you look at Skylar and Swanna's relationship in the Pokemon anime series, you can see why it's a perfect choice. It may be the only Swan in Pokemon, but let's be fair,
There can only be one.
So moving on with our next Eddie Wizard on this list, let's have a look at Gryffindor's very own pyromaniac for spells, Seamus Finnigan, whose Patronus is again never explored in the films. However, thanks to the power of research,
I know I did very well on this.
I can thankfully say that Seamus is the proud owner of a fox. Now if you own a fox Patronus, then you are quick, intelligent, and strongly ambitious, something that for a character like Seamus really fits his character well. I mean, no matter how many times that spell exploded in his face, he wanted that rum, damn it! Give him his rum! Now with a description of a Patronus like this, I have the perfect Pokemon in mind for this character. So I'm sure that you can agree with me that the perfect Pokemon for Seamus is Vulpix. Now, I was originally going to choose Nickit for this. However, when you look closely at the stats, I was in for a rather interesting surprise. Just hear me out on this one. Out of all three of the Fox-type Pokemon, Vulpix came on top for speed, hitting a grand total of 65. Fennekin was second at 60, and Nickit at the slow speed of 50. Hey, for the most part, Vulpix sits rather on top or close to second with Fennekin. But that's why I feel Vulpix is the better in this respect, as even though it may not be as strong as Fennekin, it can still hold its own, just like Seamus as a person. Also, he's a Gryffindor, and they have fire in their heart to stand up for what they believe is right. So look after that Vulpix, Seamus, and it won't let you down. Wow, is that the time? Guess what, kids? It's time for a joke. Knock knock. Who's there? Fred. Fred who? Aren't you Fred up? It's not George. Yeah, okay, I'll stick with the day job. But okay, Fred and George. Did you know they had a Patronus? Well, that's right, the two Weasley twins, famous for their mischievous pranks and shenanigans, must have a Patronus to fit their personality, right? Something naughty, like a monkey perhaps, or as infectious as a hyena, or as prankish as a magpie. Yeah, no joke, the two Weasley brothers have magpies, the creatures best known for stealing all of your shiny objects like tiny little flying sneakers. But to be fair, magpies are actually considered one of the most intelligent species of bird. Well, that's all well and good, until you consider the fact Pokemon doesn't have any magpies. So of course I had to look at what species of bird a magpie is, or what family it's related to. Which I was lucky enough to find out that the magpie is related to the family of Corvida, which of course is also part of the crow family. So screw it, Freddy Boy and Curious George over here both get a Corviknight. Why? Because they got balls of steel to pull off some of the pranks they do. Also talking about the Weasley clan with Patronuses, the next two on this list are Arthur Weasley and Ginny Weasley, as Molly, Bill, Charlie and Percy all own non-corporal Patronuses. So, dittos for all! But focusing on Arthur Weasley, he is the owner of a Weasel Patronus. So of course, a weasel looks, well, very much like a ferret. So I either had the choice of either going for a Furret or a Floatzel, as both look like weasels, somewhat, and the Floatzel is also described as being a Weasel-type Pokemon. So when looking at the personality traits associated with the Weasel Patronus, I have come to the decision that the Water-type Pokemon would work so much better in this situation. So Arthur Weasley is the owner of a Floatzel. Now moving on to the youngest family member and only daughter in the family, Ginny Weasley, she has the Patronus of a horse. So pretty much you can imagine what I'm already going to choose.
You know what? I'm starting to think this stupid show is the best thing that ever happened to me.
No, not that one. Okay, so I'm not going to go into much detail with this one, as you can probably imagine what perfect Pokemon I have thought of for Ginny, which would easily be a Rapidash. I mean, come on, what else was it gonna be? Also, on top of that, could you imagine a Gryffindor riding into the battle on a fire-consumed horse? That would just be awesome! So with that one out of the way, Ginny gets a Rapidash. And for the final witch on this list, this witch was super easy to choose for, but really isn't easy to figure out. So yes, Luna Lovegood has the Patronus of a hare. And no, I don't mean the thing that certain men of a certain age lack in later life. Now, I was going to find the most obscure hare to incorporate Luna's Patronus. However, like most things in Pokemon, there's only 3 rabbit hare type Pokemon. So in this case, I just looked at the most obscure evolution of the hare Pokemon. And nothing is more obscure than the pre-evolution to Big Chungus himself. So Luna, you get the hare-digging Pokemon Bunnelby. Now go out there and find some Nargles.
I don't know about you guys, but I think she's crazy.
And speaking of crazy, well, I think I've had enough of that for one day. So this is where I'm going to conclude part 1 of this video. But trust me, we still have a lot more to cover in the next part, so please make sure you stay tuned for part 2 of What If Pokemon Were a Wizard's Patronus. But as always guys, this is where I'm going to pass the question off to you. What do you think of the choices I've made so far? Do you currently like the idea of having Pokemon as a Wizard's Patronus? Also, what would your Poketronus be? Well, why not let me know down in the comment section down below. But as always guys, if you are new here and you have enjoyed this video, then why not consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this one. But until next time guys, as always, I am terrible with outros. I shall see you all in the next video, but until then, bye-bye.